Welcome to the Visual Storytelling Podcast. My name is Fred Ranger, and I'm so happy that you're joining us today for another inspirational conversation. Today, I have not one, but two very special guests. Ashley Riffo and Bob Patterson. You might know them from the Street Photography magazine, but today we have plenty of topics to cover. So first off, Ashley and Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, Bob, we've been chatting for multiple years. I've been on your podcast. You've been on my podcast. But we'll go with ladies first. For the few people who don't know Ashley and Bob, Ashley, maybe you go first. Who are you and what brought you to the beautiful world of street photography?
Yeah, good question. So I am the editor of Street Photography magazine, and I started working with Bob. I forget this number every time, Bob. Is it 10 or 11 years?
I think it's 11 now.
So about 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. And that kind of brought me into the world of street photography. I was living in South America at the time. So, of course, I was, taking lots of pictures of everything that was new and different around me. But I wasn't really aware of the street photography genre until I started working with the magazine. So, yeah, I feel like my love for street photography and any small amount of skills I might have has grown as I've been working with the magazine.
Nice. Thank you so much, Ashley. And Bob, for the three people who don't know who you are you, really?
Oh, man, I struggle with that every day. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Me too.
But no, I'm the publisher of Street Photography magazine, and we've been at it for almost 12 years. Matter of fact, and before I came on with you, I just interviewed a gentleman who I forgot to tell him he's going to be. That'll be our 200th episode of the podcast,
wow,
which we started later after the magazine was founded. So we do the Street Photography Magazine podcast as well.
Yes, a very, I would say, staple in the industry. I mean, a lot of people are waiting patiently for the next episode and the next episode. You have a great show, and it's an honor to have you both on my show. But before we dive into the book, I want to talk about the magazine, because street photography, you said it best, Ashley. I mean, some people are doing it without even knowing that they're doing street photography. Mm-hmm. Some people just like to capture stories while they travel or in their own cities. So how would you describe in 2025 street photography? I mean, you're seeing so many photos, a lot of work from different portion of the world. So maybe I'll start with you, Ashley. How do you represent street photography when you talk about it to somebody else?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that a point of view we've tried to take with the magazine is to capture street photography in all its glory and all its variations. So it's kind of a wide genre, in my opinion. You have street portraiture, you have, classic, like abstract street photos. There's so many variations of it, and I think that's what makes it interesting. And then also, it's worth mentioning, Street Photography magazine also includes documentary photography. So we do delve into that realm as well. And I think there's kind of a blurry line sometimes between the two genres. So yeah, I think it can be whatever someone wants it to be, as long as there's streets and people involved.
I like this last portion of your answer, because quite frankly, if you have a camera, if you're on the street and you're capturing a story, it doesn't really matter if you're aligned with a specific type of storytelling. If you're clicking that shutter, you're on the street, you're capturing something. For me, that's street photography, and it doesn't even have to be on the street. I mean, Joel Moritz did a beautiful series on the beach, and for me, that's street photography. Would you agree, Bob?
Yeah,
I agree completely.
Yeah,
some people will disagree. And sometimes vehemently, but there's a lot of great street, in the moment photos, whatever you want to call them, on the beach, some inside buildings, goat paths, you name it. And so we're pretty liberal. We're not very what's the term, legalistic about what
Mhm.
street photography is. We
Nice.
won't publish somebody's wedding photos, or sometimes they're vacation photos, but
Yep.
it's we're pretty broad. Although no AI generated photos, please.
Yes, and that's definitely a topic that we will address because it's becoming more and more of a thin line. And, a lot of those photos we're looking at on big social media platforms are AI generated. And it's not to say that they're not good or they're not, you know, good looking, but it's completely changing the way we think about art and capturing stories. Have you seen, maybe not the AI front, but have you seen an evolution in the type of photos that you get? Have you seen trends when you look at when you first started 12, 11 years ago and what you're receiving today? Or has it been completely different from, one person to the other? Or are you seeing trends in the type of photos you're receiving?
That's a very good question. And you know what? We should go back and look
Mm,
at old issues of
Mhm.
the magazine. I'm sure it's evolved. Um, I've started to see some ICM photos,
mm,
intentional camera movement. Matter of
yeah,
fact, the gentleman I just talked to has some great street photos that he did with a flash and ICM, and it would be hard to discount those. Um, the I don't know, I can't think of anything too new. We've seen fewer what I call people walking down the street photos, where someone just sees somebody coming at them and they take a shot and say, "Here's a street photo."
yeah.
Well, yeah, but
How
I
about the
guess so. But they're
silhouettes?
not
Are silhouettes
silhouettes.
still a thing?
Yeah, still see
Mhm.
still a lot of silhouettes. I think I'm starting to see more cliche type things. Maybe that's because so many people do them, like people walking past a billboard,
Yeah.
and there's some type of juxtaposition. Uh, see a lot of those. Um, Ashley, what do you think? Anything jump out at you?
I think that one thing I've noticed is that we're seeing more of the world. I think as
Yeah,
Hmm.
you know, cameras become more accessible, I guess, in the past 10 years. And smartphone cameras are a lot better than they used to be 10 years ago, too. So, yeah, I think we're seeing countries and cities that we didn't see as much 10 years ago. And that's really cool.
I do agree. And this is one thing that I've discovered by doing my zine is that people were reaching out and asking me, where was that photo taken? And wow, this is so beautiful. It's so powerful to be able to tell a story through an image that somebody wouldn't necessarily have access to if it wasn't through your work. And that brings me to the actual book. You guys have published recently Where the Streets Lead. And it's a book that actually covers pretty much all genre of street photography and across the globe. So can you talk to me about the process and how did the idea came about that you guys were, pretty good at doing the zine stuff or the magazine stuff, but you said this is not enough. Let's print a book. And how was that crazy idea came to life?
yeah, not too crazy. We've talked about this for years, but I personally, well, I know Ashley does too. I mean, I love seeing printed photographs on the wall or in a book. And I mean, we make our living with a digital magazine, and probably because it's a lot less expensive to do
Yeah.
than a printed magazine, which now I mean, is almost prohibitive to do it on a regular basis, at least at an affordable price. But we've been wanting to do a book, and we've gone back and forth about maybe doing some version of the magazine, maybe best hits for the year, something like that. And when we finally decided to pull the plug, we were started brainstorming a book, and that's where we came up with this concept, which Where the Streets Lead, by the way, is all about photographers' favorite places to shoot. So everybody was to submit one image from their favorite place to shoot and a little story about where it is and why they like it.
Yeah, this is very interesting again because a lot of people are curious to know why. Why would you come back to a place and photograph it again and again and again? And you get a bit more insight on why those photographers are coming back to those places. Were you surprised by the amount? I heard, I think on your podcast, that there was like more than 2,000 images that were submitted. Were you surprised by the response when you put out the word that you were producing a book and you were kind of doing a call out?
Yeah, I don't know. It was there's so many aspects of this book that we had no idea. We said, let's do a call. How many submissions? We don't know. We have no idea. Like it felt like every step of the way we were like, okay, we have to make decisions based on zero knowledge. And I think the call
Yeah.
is one of those. We knew we had a large audience. We know how many subscribers we have. We know how many people follow us on social media. But, you know, realistically, how many people would submit? We weren't sure. So I think we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and so do you find that people actually were submitting their best work, or they were really going along with the theme and saying this is a place that resonates so much with me, and it's not necessarily my best photo, but this is why I want to submit this photo? So how were people reacting to that theme that you put out of basically, I think you call it the personal sanctuaries of those photographers?
I think you could say a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I would definitely say a little bit of both. The I suspect some people sent one of their favorite photos and kind of backed into why that location was great, and others did it the way we requested. But
Yeah, I will make a confidence on this podcast. So was fortunate enough to being selected on that in that book, and
yes, you were.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And the photo I submitted is from. It's not from my own city. It's in Brooklyn, and it's literally one of my favorite photos ever. And the little story around it, I think we discussed it, Bob, on your podcast. But I didn't think anything of that photo when I took it. I knew I was capturing something that really pleased me because of the fact that it was kind of a moment that would never come back, and it was a like non-precise in the time type of moment because the person, and it's a girl or a woman in a window, but it could be from any era. It could be from the 20s, the 50s, whatever. But I always go back to that location in Brooklyn, but I've never seen that scene in front of me. So when I first took the photo, I was like, nice photo. But then I put it in the computer, blow it up on the screen, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is really something unique. And to your point, I said, okay, if there's one photo that tells that story of coming back to a place where you feel good about shooting, where you actually interact with people. So this is the other aspect that I didn't really put in the book, but this is a place where it's so easy to connect with people. So I chatted with so many photographers or non-photographers, people outside just walking on the street. So I find that every image has a story, and this is why it's so powerful to build a book like this one, or to put a book together, because every photographer in this book have a story attached to that image. Was there any surprises or anything that you were like, oh my God, I this is something that we need to put in the book because it's so left field, or because I think there's a theme, but was there anything surprising while reviewing the images and publishing it?
A lot. Yeah, a whole lot. But don't forget to mention your photo was on the cover photo of your book, Humans After All.
Yes, on the zine, exactly.
Zine, yeah. Yeah, it worked really well. But yeah, there's quite a few. There's, when you get 2,000, we got about like 1,900 and
Wow.
some submissions. And so there were a lot of great photos that didn't make it. But I think some of the things that jump out at me are the photos from, was it Philip's photos from Ireland with the Irish travelers. And when I saw the first one, I didn't realize what it was. It was a group of women all dressed up with these little girls who were really dressed up. And I thought it was like one of those child beauty pageants. But they just look so different. And I go, what is this? This is very interesting. And we had chosen two photos. We chose both of his photos that he submitted from different places, but it was from the same project. And at the time, we didn't even realize it was the same photographer. We basically chose photos blindly, and didn't know who was who at first in our first several cuts. And so I thought that really surprised me. I don't know, Ashley, anyone that really jumps out at you now that you think about it?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Dan. I'm going to say his name wrong. It's I'm going to have to. I don't want to really butcher
It's
it.
okay. I'm French, and I butcher all the names on this podcast, so it's a theme in this podcast.
Maybe he's French, and
maybe I can pronounce it
we'll
for you.
continuously butcher French.
Let's see.
French.
I'm gonna look it up.
Say it in
that I don't
Spanish.
kill his name. I think he's Latino, but his last name is definitely not. Let me see if I can find it here. It is Dan Finstermacher.
Fenstermarker.
See?
Marker. Yeah.
Mocker. See, I still said it wrong. So his photo, if I want to call it weird,
Oh.
I don't, but I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
It is kind of a strange photo, but I love it because you look at it and you say, what the heck is going on here? What is this? And I really like that about it. I showed it to interestingly, my family had the same reaction. They're not into street photography or anything, but they looked at the book, and they stopped on that page and said, this photo, what is happening here?
Nice.
And it's just a scene from Dan is into like the lowrider community in California. But it's just such an interesting photo that, initially I think we had the same reaction. We're like, what is going on here? Do we want this in the book? But I think we kept it because of that, because it makes you stop and stare and look at it and think like, what is happening here? It's just a very interesting photo.
Which is, again, such a powerful, this is why photography is so powerful. This is why it's such a powerful medium. Sometimes it makes you cry. Sometimes it makes you laugh. Sometimes it makes you ask questions. And sometimes you don't know what the hell is going on in this image. So this is why I love it so much. And I think a lot of the people who are going to buy the book are going to be very pleased by what they're seeing, because it's not, again, just one theme or one type of scenes or one photographer even. It's 53, I think, street photographers that made the book.
53.
Wow, that's crazy. Yep. And how do you decide on a cover? That's always something that I ask myself, because even for my little zines, I did a volume 2 of my zine, and as soon as I hit publish, I'm like, man, I think that was the wrong cover. I think there's a better photo to it. So how do you decide on your side who makes the cover and what image ends up on the top of the book?
Yeah, it's tough.
That was tricky.
We had a lot of so many strong images, but Ashley chose the cover. And
we were trying to find something that fit with our theme, like a photo that would illustrate that title, Where the Streets Lead.
Yes.
And there was a few in our collection that would have worked. So basically we just made several mock-ups. And, there's other considerations with a cover. We had thought about doing a photo across the whole entire cover and then text on top of that. But that has implications. Sometimes it's a great photo, but it won't work with the text, and because of the colors or where the subjects are.
Yeah.
And we're always leery, too, about cropping people's images. These are not our images. So we were trying to do that without cropping. So basically, how many sample covers did we make, Bob? It was probably close to 10.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'd say at least, yeah.
And we just kind of went through them together. I think a big part of what makes this book successful is that there were two minds involved
Yes.
in the curation, and we could bounce stuff off of each other. So we would look at each potential cover and say, why do you think this works or not work?
And
And
I will admit it's a beautiful image. I don't know who took it. What was the name of the photographer? But nice hat or men in a silhouette with a hat, and there's an escalator. It's nicely composed. There's the light that's incredible in the background. So and it's in black and white. Again, just want to commend you, because this is instantly you're intrigued by this book and you want to dive in. So congrats. Maybe you can start doing some workshops on how to decide on book cover. But what did you learn? Because I know Bob and I have been exchanging some messages, and it's been a long process. So for people who are interested in publishing a book or self-publishing a book, what are the top three learnings? There must have been 150 type of learnings, but what are the top three that you're like, be careful of that. You should try to do that, and don't do that.
Oh, that's a good way to categorize them.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
well, we'll start with don't do that. Don't do it.
I love it. This will be the title of
It'll
the
take over
podcast.
your life.
Thinking about publishing a book?
Oh,
Don't do
I'm
it.
kidding.
Bob Patterson, 2025.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, let's see. I know the learning. We wrote all this down when we did the podcast. What did we learn from it? Well, you learned that don't expect it to come out the way you vision from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a very organic process, especially, ours was different because it's an anthology. So we were dealing with other people's work, which actually made it much more complex. Of course, I haven't done a monograph, so, I can't say for sure.
maybe
but-
that's worse.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it might be, but at least if it's your own work, you can control the shape and size of each image. I've seen some where every photo is the exact same size and shape, but with this, some are monochrome, some are color, some are, a few vertical ones, most horizontal, of course, and. We had to make them work together. But I don't know. What's your biggest learning experience, Ashley? I'm going to punt that to you for.
Sure. I think we learned a lot about what's involved in publishing a book. Because it's easy to think about, get inspired, you have this project, you have these photos, but then there's the practical side of it, which is probably why a lot of books never come to life. So a big one that I think we learned is kind of the process, like of deciding on if you're going to go for a publisher or self-publish. That's a big one. And one thing we learned about if you want to secure a publisher is you need to start that probably before you even start on the book, which we didn't do. We made that mistake. We pretty much had kind of a good idea of what the book was going to be like. And then a couple people encouraged us, why don't you, instead of self-publishing, get a publisher? So we said, oh, okay, let's try it. We wrote a book proposal. But by the time we learned how to write a book proposal, learned all these things, we realized if a publisher accepts this, it's going to be a whole nother year or two probably before the book is actually available to purchase. And we've already had all these photographers waiting on this for this many months already. So that was a big lesson. Like if we had understood that, we may have written a book proposal and sent that out before we even made a call for images. So I don't know. That was a big one that I had no idea about. If you want to secure a publisher, start that early, way early in the process.
Yeah, I can only imagine the countless hours discussing many options. Again, to your point, including self-publishing, doing the pitches if you're doing with the publisher, and so on and so forth. So that's quite the process. And how long did it take? Like the whole process from the idea to having it up on the website?
Well, from the day we stopped accepting submissions, which is about mid-February, to the day we actually have the book in hand was almost exactly a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to
We
be.
thought it'd be about 3 months.
Well, I guess this is where you have to be as patient as you're ambitious when you embark on a journey like that one.
Yeah. You know, so what did we learn? A big one, a saying that I've heard many times in business is when you start something new, it'll take it'll take twice as long and cost twice as much as
Yeah.
you planned. And I found out that's not true. It's actually more.
Make it
At
3,
least
4
in this
times.
case.
Yeah. No, I agree. Whether it's an app or a new product or a campaign or anything you're doing, I completely agree. And being from the business world myself,
Yeah.
I can see a lot of similarities between bringing a new project to life from a technical standpoint and logistical standpoint, because we have a bit of a romantic approach to photography and book publishing and artsy and arts and crafts and so on. It needs to be treated as a business at the end of the day. If you don't want this to become a money pit, or if you want this to be a success on both sides for the people who are working on it and people in it, it has to be treated as a long-term project and as a business. Which leads me to my next question: was the experience so fun and enjoyable that you're already thinking about what's next and next books, or you're like, you know what, let's sit with this one, let's make this one a success, and then we'll figure out the next chapter?
Well, we're kind of catching our breath right now. Although I'm planning my own book.
Oh, nice.
Maybe more. Well, you inspired me with your zines, and so I'm going to do something small with some of my own work I'm doing in the jazz world. But Ashley, I haven't told you this. I've got an idea for another one.
Oh my God! You've heard it first
on here.
On this podcast.
I came up with it this morning, so
fresh out of
I'll
the
send
oven.
it in Slack.
Yeah, so I think the answer to your question is yes, it was really fun, and we'll probably do another.
Nice. Because again, I think I'm looking forward to receiving my copy. I know there's some. Speaking of logistics, you're dependent on a lot of things, including postal services and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. That adds a layer of complexity and fun, should I say, to the process. But people are starting to receive it. I love seeing people sharing it on their Instagram or whatever the social network they're using, Threads and so on. And people seem to be really, really liking it and enjoying it. And actually, I've seen you taking pictures where you see it like in libraries and stuff like that. So this is very insightful. And I invite everybody, I'll put the links down below to the section on Street Photography Magazine website where you can buy a single copy or multiple copies, which I encourage you to do if you want to have a little,
That was a late edition.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a new button. I'm like, oh, nice. This means that there's a way to buy more than one. And I guess if you're, I don't know, library, or if you're a photo club and so on and so forth, this is a nice way to encourage other street photographers and also share the love of street photography with your colleagues. So I really like that. Maybe a question more. You talked about personal work, Bob. So Ashley, what are you into when it comes to going out and capturing stories? What makes you tick? What makes you take that photo and share it afterwards?
Yeah, good question. I think people. I love street portraits. I love interacting with people. Right now, just I have a just turned 3-year-old. I have a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. So something I've been trying to do now, because with this small child, it's harder to get out there and shoot. And sometimes I've been like, let me take my camera when we go to the park. But have you ever tried to do street photography in the presence of a 2-year-old? I mean, it's impossible.
It won't happen. Yeah, I
No.
agree.
So one thing I've been trying to do is kind of look at what I have. Sometimes the more personal projects that we publish, especially in Street Photography Magazine, are the more moving ones. So I've been thinking a lot about that. I have, elderly grandparents that live next door. I have a 3-year-old. I have, I'm trying to kind of turn the focus inwards and think about what can I document in my own life that is, as we talked about in a recent podcast, personal but also universal, something that other people will connect with. So yeah, I haven't really created a strong body of work based on those subjects, but I have been taking a lot of photographs. So I'm kind of hoping it will develop, and also that I can find a more specific focus.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you know what, Ashley? Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
ahead,
go
Fred.
for it, Bob.
No, I think Ashley, you need to get Sally Mann's book.
I love her.
And
I love her, and
yeah,
I feel like yeah, actually, I think yesterday I was looking at her books online.
oh, look at that! What a
Yeah,
coincidence.
because I feel like that's a good source of inspiration for me. Someone
I think
who's
so.
done something similar.
Yeah,
I could never reach her level though, so that's why I'm a little scared of it.
Your camera's bigger than yours.
Way.
Well, speaking of which, I'm sure you have an autofocus camera with a 2-3 year old. You have to have that, right? You're not like manually focusing. And by the way, I love the photo with the dog and the kids in the background. Like this is a beautiful photo that very aligned with what you're saying of capturing moments in your life, and very personal yet, to your point, universal. Everybody can relate to a scene like that. So I really like this style of photography. I'll put the link to your Instagram down in the description. Some beautiful photos of your kid. Yeah, that's something I did myself, and this is where the small camera. So like Bob and I are fans of the X100 series from Fujifilm. Always had it on me and captured, from the original X100 12, 13 years ago, I guess now,
Yeah.
till the very, last week where I sold my X100, but that's another story. That's another podcast. I've had these little cameras because, to your point, actually, it's hard to look around a big DSLR or a big mirrorless camera and, be in the mindset of a street photographer or of a documentary photographer. So what do you use? I saw a photo on your iPhone where you were complaining that you didn't have your proper camera with you. So what are you rocking as your kit? And this is the 5 second of gear talk that we do in this show. But what is your weapon of choice?
So I have a Fuji X-T5, but hearing you talk about the X100 makes me feel like I should get one of those because,
I think you should.
sometimes as I chase around the 2-year-old, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just banged the camera. Like,
Yep.
so
honestly, it's so
yeah.
light and it's such a great camera. And if you don't feel like editing, there's always these great film simulations and film recipes that a lot of people seem to be enjoying. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Again, even though I sold it, but it's for other reasons. So
Should have sold it to me.
yeah, maybe. Well, do we have to pay tariffs if I send from
I was
Canada
going
to?
to say,
Maybe.
the tariff. It's that 25% tariff, you're not going to like that.
Exactly.
Take a road trip to Canada and pick it up.
Exactly. Nice. Thanks, Ashley. So Bob, again, your photography is amazing too. I always love seeing your images. But what is that book idea that you have? So do you have a body of work on a specific theme? I know you like jazz music photography. So what's the next step for you?
Yeah, that's what my book is going to be. And I've been photographing the jazz community in Central Virginia for about 2.5 years, so not a super long time. And I've been able to gain access to several venues and get to know a lot of the people. I've done portraits in their homes and just one place I shoot has got just unbelievable light. I have free reign of the stage, and which is a lot of fun. So, I live in a small town, but it's got a very rich jazz community. Not that the people are rich, but we could just have some amazing musicians. I'm in a college town, so it attracts a lot of creative people. So so I'm going to put that together in a book. Probably under 50 photos. I don't think I'll do hardcover for sure. Actually, my plan to do that was just to use it as a way to try to get some exhibit space somewhere locally.
Honestly, I think it's a good idea. I've given away some of my zines to places that I wanted to show my work, and it's so much more tangible when you have it in your hands.
Exactly.
When you go through it, and then you can show your work. And I've got a couple places that called back and said, "Yeah, you know what? We would like to have this, and that photo in our coffee shop or restaurants and so on and so forth. So I'm not at a level where I do museums. Maybe that's one big dream that I have. I guess we all have the same dream, but for now, I'll stick with coffee shops and restaurants until further notice.
Are you happy having done the zine format?
Oh man, absolutely. Honestly, it's the best thing that happened to my photography. It's not a new camera I got. It's not an award I won or whatever. It's me sequencing, editing a zine, purposefully printing it, seeing the work, seeing the reaction of people looking at the work. That for me is the best thing that happened to my photography. That and stop chasing the perfect image and so on and so forth. Those are two things that really helped me become the photographer I am today. And adding the storytelling element in a printed format, that nothing can beat that. No apps, and I love the new apps that are coming out, like Photo app that just came out, pretty cool, or PDFs that you can download and stuff. But nothing beats having it in your hands. That's something that I'll go to my grave with when I'm done with this life.
It came out really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very nice quality. It's print on demand too, right?
Yeah.
It's
blurb, and they were liking it so much that they identified it as a staff pick. So you never know what will happen when you do stuff like that. Yeah. So and the volume 2 is I'm thinking of doing a long-term series, like having 10, 15, 20 volumes if need be, because the theme is humans after all, and we're all humans after all. And that's something that last time I checked, although some days I wake up and I'm like, are we still humans with all this AI stuff going on?
Yeah.
But I guess in the end, we're humans after all. Bob and Ashley, it's been such a pleasure to discuss with you this morning. I think this is very important work that you guys have embarked on to share the love of street photography and helping so many photographers like myself to have a voice, an even bigger voice, putting your community and your reach at the disposal of people like us who don't necessarily have a big following or a big voice in this photography world. I want to thank you. I want to personally thank you on behalf of all the people who participated in the process. I think we're looking forward to seeing even new editions after this one. We'll give you a bit of a breather, like you said, Bob, to catch up and to send those copies and think about the new idea. But I can see Bob is already excited about his new idea. So Ashley, I think you have some more work planned for you in the very near future. But Ashley, where can people find out more about both the book and your personal work?
So I have a website, ashleyriffo.com, double F in the Riffo. And there's a sales page on the website, the streetphotographymagazine.com website for the book as well.
Perfect. I'll put all the links down below. And Bob, where can people find out? And how can they know when your book will be ready?
You're asking the wrong person. I thought Where the Streets Lead would be out in May. So, all right. But I just want to clarify one quick thing first. Okay, I was talking about the Irish traveler photos, and they were done by a gentleman called Joseph Philippe Breviard. He's an American, but he lives in Ireland, and so I just wanted to give him props because his stuff really jumped out. Okay, you can find me streetphotographymagazine.com. Of course, I probably have like 5 photos on there. I'm not good enough to be in that magazine. And my personal website, which I'll say what everybody says, it needs updating. It needs updating badly. And it's Bob Patterson, double T and Patterson.me.
Nice.
And that's
perfect.
Probably the easiest way.
Awesome. So I'll put all those links down below. And I've been Fred Ranger. Again, Ashley and Bob, I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. The book is called Where the Streets Lead, and it's available now. You can buy a single copy. You can buy 100 copies. It's all available on the Street Photography Magazine website. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, I invite you to go into your podcast app and rate it a 5-star review. This will go a long way. And also share it Share it with your friends. Share it with your photographer friends, non-photographer friends. This is a podcast for everybody. It's about visual storytelling. And again, I wish you a very, very pleasant reminder of your day and see you next time.
Merci.